everyone, and welcome to another segment of SWC reporting from PS 105 in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. Without censorship of those involved in connecting you to the content, my name is Ariana.
And my name is Brittany. Thank you so much for joining us. Today is an important day as we will not only feature one candidate, but at least some candidates that are attending today's town hall as we keep you posted on the race. More than a dozen of candidates are running on New York's 10th Congressional District. Let's hear what they have to say.
Welcome to Speaking Without Censorship.
Are you a Democratic Socialist or moderate, and why?
I am more moderate to left. I support a lot of progressive ideas, but I am also a common sense Democrat on public safety and hate crimes. Right, so I support a fair system for everyone, fair for the victims and their families. We should give second chance for someone who make a mistake and need a redemption, but we also have to hold repeated violent offenders accountable for their action because we have to be fair to everybody.
Okay, great point. Are you a supporter of defund the police? Yes, no, or why?
No, I don't support defund the police because I don't think that will solve the problem. We need we need better training. I am 100% against police brutality, but I support good policing. We need to work together with police to make everybody safer. Right now, because I am an everyday New Yorker who takes train to go to work and travel around the city. Right now, public safety is a nightmare. New York City are not safe. So we have to be honest with ourselves. We need police to work together to make everybody safer and fair. Like I said earlier, most people who got killed and hurt were everyday New Yorkers, and immigrants. So we had to be fair to them and also their families. We have to protect everyone.
Great point, Jimmy. Are you in support or against supervised consumption sites for illegal drugs?
Say that.
Are you in support or against supervised consumption sites for illegal drugs?
I support we have to supervise illegal drugs, definitely, right? Right now, even though we had the policy to legalize like a marijuana, but we had to guide people through. Marijuana is legal right now, right? So, but we also had to provide some guidance, right? I have seen people smoking like marijuana on the train, in the platform, next to children's playground, church, school. So there has to be some common sense, right? So you have your freedom, but everyday people also have the freedom for free and fresh air. We have to respect each other's space. So we had to, supervise the illegal drug and to protect the drug users and also public too, because when they use those needles, we had to make sure it's safely stored so no one get hurt from it. So we had to protect everybody.
Okay, thank you so much, Jimmy Lee.
Thank you, my pleasure. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Maud, for joining us. It's an honor to have you again. So my question is, are you a Democratic Socialist or moderate, and why?
I would definitely call myself a moderate, and that's because what is Democratic Socialist or the left wing of the Democratic Party has really led the way to some of the policy changes we've seen in New York City that have made our city less clean, less safe, less affordable, and less good for families and less good for businesses. We've seen families leaving New York City, and we've seen businesses struggling to stay afloat. So I think we need to pull back from these extreme left positions and have moderate, common sense, democratic policies that'll keep us safe, build good schools, and make New York City a place where people want to come to.
Okay, absolutely. Are you a supporter of defund the police? Yes or no, and why?
Absolutely no, and I have been vocal about being opposed to defund the police. Any city needs police. You need well-trained police, you need accountable police, you need police that do their job well, but you need them to do their job. You have to pay for police, and you have to respect the fact that they have a critical role in our society.
Right, absolutely. So, are you in support or against supervised consumption sites for illegal drugs?
I don't think that's making our cities or our neighborhoods safer. And I think it's deeply unfair in two ways. One, to the families and the old people and the working people who walk around in the neighborhoods and have to absorb the impact of these centers. But it's also really unfair to the people who need help getting off of drugs. Those people that are using drugs are the sons and daughters of people that love them and want them to get help, not get a place where they can go and do more drugs and become further addicted.
Excellent point. In addition to this, if you get to be a member in Congress, what would be the first thing you do to address the concerns that are being experienced throughout the city? Because families are concerned that they spot more and more needles in public areas, especially where children and youth walk by.
Right. We need to enforce laws that are on the books. Drug paraphernalia is something that we used to arrest people for and prosecute, and we need to do it again. It's not fair to young kids to walk into a playground and see hypodermic needles on the ground. It's going back to the bad old days of New York, and we can't do that because we know how bad it was, and we know that if we prosecute the laws that are on our book, we can clean up our city, and that's what we need to do.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Maud, for joining us. How did you feel about the whole town hall?
I thought it was great, and I thought they did a really good job of asking a mix of questions, the longer questions, some short lightning rounds, and I really do enjoy the opportunity to ask my fellow candidate questions. I wish some of them would ask me a question, but they never do.
Well, thank you so much for pointing that out, and thank you so much for being, our guest again.
Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. It's Ariana. Welcome back from SWC. This is.
Hello, I'm Brian Robinson, running for Congress in District 10.
Are you a Democratic Socialist or moderate, and why?
I'm a moderate. Socialism doesn't work here, and it hasn't worked anywhere else. It's been implemented, so we need to stay away and reject the extremes on both sides in order to have a civil, functioning society.
Great point, Brian. Are you a supporter of defund the police, yes or no, and why?
No, because there's actually empirical data that proves that police presence directly relates to a safer environment and less crime. That said, there's no evidence that less police presence leads to more citizen fatalities by the hands of the police, I should add. So, no, I don't support that. That was reckless, and it had dire consequences.
Okay, great point. Are you in support or against supervised consumption sites for illegal drugs?
I'm against that because I think it sends the wrong message. I think rehabilitation is what is necessary for somebody who's an addict. And, to enable somebody to keep doing hard drugs on taxpayer dime is reckless, especially with an environment of surging inflation. And also, it's not helping those who are severely drug addicted. In fact, it's just allowing them to continue to abuse something that will hurt their life long term.
Awesome, great point. Lastly, what were your thoughts on today's town hall, and what would you like to say to the other candidates that are running against you?
Well, first of all, I'm very thankful to have been invited to this, and I think every candidate had something to say, and I respect each and every one of them that showed up. That said, we need a moderate right now. We need somebody who's going to stand up for public safety. The cornerstone of my congressional platform is based on public safety and solving the homeless and mental health crisis here in the city, because frankly, the shelters are victimizing neighborhoods. 80% of homeless people wouldn't hurt a fly, but there's that 20% that perhaps get out of a jail in Rochester, early parole, which, decarceration actually led to over 10,000 inmates being let out on a mass scale for parole. We're talking about hardened criminals, and it's had dire consequences because they all claim right to shelter here in New York. We're the only one who actually even gives the opportunity for anybody, even if they're involved in the criminal justice system, to claim right to shelter. And as a Jewish guy, the hate crimes have been unbelievably tough to watch. Asian Americans are being victimized in Chinatown. Hate crimes are up in every category, and we need to put a stop to this.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Thank you for your time. This is SWC Ariana reporting from Sunset Park, Brooklyn.
To allow us to touch on as many subjects as we can in the remaining time, as briefly as we can. I'm going to ask each candidate to limit their answers to either yes or no responses, or simply one word or one phrase. We're going to start, Mr. Robinson, with you. Do you support expanding the number of Supreme Court seats? Yes or no?
Yes.
Ms. New?
Yes.
Ms. Maron?
No.
Mr. Lee?
Yes, if we can solve the problem.
Mr. Jones?
Yes, it's my legislation.
Ms. Holtzman?
Yes, but I don't think we'll get that legislation through, so I have a plan other than that to take on investigations to change the composition.
Mr. Sean, back to you, Mr. Sean. Do you support the expansion of Supreme Court seats?
I beg your pardon, ma'am?
Sure. Do you support expanding the number of seats on the Supreme Court? The number of justices on the Supreme Court? Yes or no? It's just a yes or no.
Yes.
Terrific. Thank you. We're going to move to another question. Ms. Holtzman, we're going to start on your end. Do you support the Israel boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement, or BDS as it's known?
No.
Mr. Jones?
No.
Mr. Lee?
No, it doesn't solve the problem.
Ms. Maron?
Emphatically no.
Ms. New?
I support the free speech rights of the BDS movement.
Mr. Robinson? Mr. Robinson? We're going to ask the audience please to refrain.
I don't think hate speech necessarily falls under the umbrella of free speech.
Mr. Robinson, yes or no?
No, it's anti-Semitic.
Mr. Sean?
No.
Mr. Sean, we're going to start with you again. Have you accepted donations from major Republican supporters? Have you accepted any accepted any donations from major Republican donors? Republican donors.
I don't get this.
Okay.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh, that's a good question.
Yes or no?
Totally not.
All right.
And,
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Mr. Robinson, you're next.
That's a negative.
Ms. New?
No.
Ms. Maron?
I've accepted donations from Democrats and Republicans and independents. I don't know any.
Mr. Lee?
No.
Mr. Jones?
No.
Ms. Holtzman?
I'm a fierce Democrat, so I don't think any Republican has given me a penny.
Ms. Holtzman, we're going to start with you at this end again. Would you seek the endorsement of Mayor Adams?
Mayor Adams knows that I'm running for office. If he wants to endorse me, that's up to him.
Mr. Jones?
Respectfully, I'm not interested in that.
Mr. Lee? Sure. The question is, would you seek, is your campaign seeking the endorsement of Mayor Eric Adams?
No, I did not ask for the endorsement.
Ms. Maron?
I've not asked for it, but would happily accept the endorsement.
Sorry,
No.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes, I would.
Mr. Sean?
No.
Okay. Mr. Sean, can you tell me your favorite restaurant in this district?
That's, I spent 15 states in the USA.
Okay.
15 states in the USA. 这里的, of course, Manhattan, Chinatown, Brooklyn.
Okay. Mr. Robinson?
Wakanda Verde and Tribeca.
Ms. New?
Super taste on Eldridge.
Ms. Maron?
Estancia, Argentine restaurant in Tribeca.
Okay. Mr. Lee?
99 favorite taste, a great hot place. I strongly recommend that you come to Sunset Park. You can find it in Lower Manhattan as well. 99 favorite hot pot.
Mr. Jones, please.
You good, me too.
Ms. Holtzman?
Arugula and Gorham Hill.
Okay. Ms. Holtzman, congestion pricing, yes or no?
I'm a big supporter of it, but it has to be implemented in a proper way, in a fair way, so that it's not more expensive to drive a family into Manhattan.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Congestion pricing, yes or no?
Yes. Because we're protecting the climate.
Ms. Maron?
No, not now.
Ms. New?
I voted yes on this legislation.
Mr. Robinson, forgive me.
No, not until people can feel safe on the subways.
Mr. Sean?
No.
Okay. And Mr. Sean, this is going to be the last question asked before we ask each of the candidates to choose one candidate to ask a question of. So, Mr. Sean, what is your favorite word?
Love.
Mr. Robinson?
Synchronicity.
Ms. New?
Grace,
Ms. Maron?
mother,
Mr. Lee?
Unity.
Mr. Jones?
Strength.
Ms. Holtzman?
Justice.
Fair enough. All right, we're going to start with you, Mr. Lee. You can choose one candidate and ask one question of the candidate, and they'll have 30 seconds to respond.
I would like to ask Mr. Xiongyan. In the past years, I have worked together with Assemblyman Colton and other leaders and allies to fighting back decisions that didn't engage community input, such as homeless shelters, SHSAT, mega jail, and street conversion, DACA, and other important social issues. My question to you is, what have you done for our community? Thank you.
Thank you so much, brother. Our community, number one, I served the country for 27 years. 27 years ago, I was a pastor in our community. Then I come back. In the past 10 years, then the past year, I worked with 1,000 small businesses to make sure they survive the pandemic. I lead a protest against the mega jails here more than 20 times. And in the past half year, I worked every street, talking to thousands of people, and help them.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would you please select a candidate and ask the question of that candidate, please?
Yes, this one is for you, Lee. Recently I revealed that J-French Jews for Economic and Racial Justice is actually a Trojan horse and anti-Semitic organization, and the political arm, the Jewish Vote, is also an anti-Semitic organization. The Anti-Defamation League chimed in and agreed with me publicly, condemning the Jewish Vote. Yulene, you are endorsed by the Jewish Vote. Will you consider, or will you, renege that endorsement now that this has been revealed?
Ms. New.
First off, it is pretty anti-Semitic to call any Jewish person anti-Semitic.
Are you Jewish?
It is also
Mr. Robinson,
disturbing to make sure that I just think that whole thread was really insulting and hurtful, and I didn't think that was actually appropriate. JFREG and the community that is part of JFREG are Jewish American voters, and they are an incredibly organized and amazing organization, and I'm so proud to have their endorsement. I'm so proud to have the endorsement of the Amazing Sunrise Movement and the Working Families Movement.
All right, thank you, Mr. Robinson. Thank you, Ms. New. Ms. Holtzman, could you, candidate of your choice, please.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Mr. Lee again a question. And I asked him at a prior forum, and perhaps I didn't phrase it properly. I have a proposal. I'm very strong in opposition to gun violence. I prosecuted as DA, I fight it, and I fight the NRA as a member of Congress. I want to see ban on assault weapons. I want to see magazines, large magazines limited. I want to see restrictions on handguns and so forth. But assuming we can't get legislation through, and as a supplement to that, not saying we don't want legislation, we want legislation.
Yes,
what do you think about a proposal to get the federal government, the state government, and the city government to use the leverage of its purchasing power, buys billions of dollars worth of weapons? Shouldn't it be using from gun manufacturers? Shouldn't it be going to those gun manufacturers and saying, hey, gun manufacturers, you want to sell us billions of dollars of weapons? You've got to stop doing assault. You've got to stop selling assault weapons. You've got to cut back and monitor your sale of weapons.
That's a great question. Gun violence in this country is out of control. We have seen everyday New Yorkers are getting killed or hurt in the past years. We have seen that, innocent everyday New Yorkers which were trying to get something from bodegas and they got killed. So definitely we had to do every possible channel way to stop the gun violence. Ms. Hosman's proposal is great. So if we can have that leverage to mandate and then prevent weapon sellers from selling more weapons, and we need to ban assault weapons, ban automatic weapons, so to prevent further violence in the United States. We must act now to save innocent lives. Thank you.
Mr. Lee. Mr. Jones, your candidate for choice, and you'd like to select a question. Mr. Strong, you'll have a moment, just a moment. You'll have a moment, just a moment. Mr. Jones. That's all right, no, we're gonna follow along. Candidate of your choice to whom you want to direct your question.
I guess my question is for Ms. Holtzman. What has been your favorite job in your long career of service?
To pick a favorite. Well, actually, I have to say that my favorite job was when I went down south in the early days of the civil rights movement, working for an African American attorney, and saw the horrors of segregation and vowed to try to stop it in every way that I could. And that led me to believe, because when I saw people rising up against segregation in the South and Jim Crow, I saw what people united can do to bring about justice. And I was very proud and honored to be part of that.
Thank you, Ms. Holtzman. Mr. Sean, would you like to direct your question now to a candidate?
Thank you,
of your
madam.
choice?
I have a question for Mr. Jimmy Lee.
Okay.
Dear brother Jimmy, I got a question for you. I was told by a government agent, Mr. Chen, a couple weeks ago, did you walk into the Chinese consulate in New York City? Is it yes or no?
Ms. New, did you want to, I'm sorry, could you ask that question to the microphone so we can all hear it? Because I don't know that we understood all of
I
it.
said it again.
Yeah, sure.
A couple weeks ago, Mr. Chen, did you walk into the Chinese consulate in New York City? Is that true or not?
That's a fake news. Fake news. Thank you.
Okay.
There's no such a thing.
Okay.
I don't know what he was talking about.
Oh, okay. Thank you for the answer. Ms. Maron?
Okay, thank you. My question is for Congressman Jones. Congressman, you are currently receiving a paycheck for your job as a congressman in Westchester, but you've left those constituents who voted for you in Westchester to move to Brooklyn. How are you representing them now, and how can we here in District 10 know that if you were represented here, you were elected here, that you wouldn't ditch us when the next best opportunity arose?
That is such a ridiculous question, and let me explain why. I'm really proud to be providing the best constituent services of anyone in the United States House of Representatives. I've got 2 district offices fully staffed. I'm at events, and I'm proud to be running to represent when I'm not in Washington, D.C., voting on legislation to build an economy that works for everybody, to lower prescription drug prices, and to invest in climate action in an unprecedented way. When I'm not in D.C. doing those things, for this summer, I am running to represent the great people of New York's 10th Congressional District. I'm proud to be endorsed by local organizations like Grand Street Democrats and New York Progressive Action Network, RWDSU, National Nurses United, and so much more. And I'm proud to be running to continue to deliver for the great people of New York's 10th Congressional District.
Appreciate the answer. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Ms. New, do you also have no, right, exactly. Are you all set? Yes. You've got a candidate of your choice.
Since Liz didn't get a question yet, right?
She did. She
Oh,
got
she
a question
did?
for Mr. Jones about what was her favorite job thus far.
Oh, okay. Then I guess I'll ask. Is it okay to ask you one? Okay. Just what does representation mean to you?
Well, I would say fairness. So, because New York is a super diverse city, so everybody should have a voice on the table. Fairness is the key. So, as a New Yorker for so many years, I'm so honored to meet great people from every culture, every other community. It's an honor to learn and share a lot of great time with other folks. Thank you. Fairness.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you. We're going to ask you to keep your applause to the very end, which is nearing. We're going to ask each of our candidates to regale us with a minute's closing statement now. Again, please hold your applause until the end so that we can hear from everyone. We'll start with you, Mr. Sean, at the end. Your closing statement as a candidate.
Thank you so much, and thank you all. The bottom line, everyone in our community have the responsibility to take care of each other. That is why my favorite word is love. We must love the people, love one another, our great country, America. That's and stop with the hate crime, hate agent crime, and change our New York City traffic condition and have more. The bottom line, our nation should get stronger and stronger, and and make our America a better place to live. 美国必须继续领先世界。That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson.
Thank you. I'm absolutely gutted by the city and the state and this country's status right now. We are not serving the people. There is no civility amongst the Democrats or the Republicans. I think we need to bring it back a little bit closer to the center. I think we need to reject the most radical elements of both parties. And I think we need to find common ground in Congress and on all levels of government. So I would be an agent of unification in Congress, not an agent of polarization. We need to focus on public safety. We need federal oversight on our mental health crisis. We need to lower taxes for small businesses, which are struggling. And we need that climate change resiliency bill to incorporate community input every time we build in order to eliminate bad actors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Ms. Smith. At the very beginning of this pandemic, we did a whole bunch of wellness check calls to our constituents to make sure that they could be okay. Unfortunately, we found several people who were not okay. And one time, one of my constituents who had a stroke previously, and she had a home care worker who was helping her. And her home care worker had got sick and with COVID and could not come and see her and was not able to help her. This was before the vaccine, before a lot of different things. And it was so incredibly important for my constituents to have received that help. We were able to help her get into her apartment, clean her up, help to get her the services she needed, get a home care worker to her. I have served this district for the last 6 years as an assembly member, and I think that it's just so important for me to be able to continue to serve our community. Right now, we know how important it is that we find those local partnerships, those local solutions to the challenges of access. And it's to the thank you to our organizers, to UA3, to a lot of the nonprofit organizations here that we are able to have the food services that we need and the social services that we need. So thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Wu. Thank you. Ms. Maron.
Thank you very much to our host for having us here. I will say that I have fought for the people that I represented in court. I was a public defender for 2 decades, and I stood up for clients who needed their rights protected and who needed to be defended in court. And I have fought for the families of this city to preserve the kind of education that all of our children deserve. In 2018 and 2019, when Bill de Blasio wanted to get rid of the specialized high school entrance exam and our gifted and talented program, I worked hard with a coalition of parents to defeat those very bad ideas. I am a fighter, and I stand up and speak the truth, even when nobody else on stage wants to hear it. I was the first person on this stage to say that the defund the police bills that were being floated were a bad idea and would make our city less safe. I was right, and I stand by it, and I will always speak the hard truths because this city needs to be rescued from the bad ideas that our current leaders have given us so that we can be more safe, have stronger schools, have small businesses that can make this a great city.
Thank you, Mr. Lee.
Hi, my name is Lee. Thank you again for having me tonight. I was a certified teacher and a city worker for more than 7 years. Growing up as the son of immigrants, I understand the struggle and issues our immigrant and working family face every day because it was my experience growing up. So I am an everyday New Yorker and a community advocate for my immigrant and working class neighbors for more than a decade. I have lived in District 10 for most of my life, and I know the issues confronted by the community in the district well. District 10 right now needs a leader that can bring all communities together. I remember that after 9/11, New York came back strong because we were fighting as one community. We were helping each other like families. We can do this again if we are united and put a stop on divided politics. Well, can please,
Mr. Lee, thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Thank you all again for being here tonight and organizing this event together. This district deserves a champion, a serious policymaker with a track record of actually delivering results. I am that person. As a sitting member of Congress, I have brought billions of dollars for schools, housing, and healthcare to New York City. And last fall, I was a change agent in a gridlock Washington because I brought progressives and conservative Democrats together, and we got Build Back Better passed in the House, and we got the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act passed into law, and now billions of dollars are coming to New York City. I'm running to fight to bring as much money as possible to Lower Manhattan and Brooklyn. These are horrifying times, and we need people who don't need on-the-job training. I've got a track record of delivering for this district. I'm proud to be endorsed by local organizations and national organizations that understand that the work I'm doing is life-saving, democracy-saving, economy-building work, and I respectfully submit that I'm the best candidate to get your support in this race. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Ms. Holtzman.
I'm just going to disagree with that last statement, if you don't mind. I have a different opinion on it. Thank you. I'm running for this seat because these are dangerous times. We have a Supreme Court that wants to take the rights away of America's women, but just remember that there's going to be a target on the back of any minority group in this country, Asians, Hispanics, and others. Just remember that we need to have a court that's going to stand for justice and not discrimination. I want to fight that court, not with legislation that's not going to pass. I want Congress to stay in, not to take a recess in August and do investigations of 2 of the Supreme Court justices who need to be examined. I'm the daughter of immigrants. My parents came here from far away from Russia. They knew how critical a good education was. I know how critical it is to the Asian community, to the Hispanic community, to every community in this city. I will fight tooth and nail to improve our education system. I have a long record of accomplishment. In just my first year in Congress, I took down a president of the United States. In my first year in Congress, I wrote a law on special prosecutors, and I uncovered the presence of Nazi war criminals, among many other things. Please look at my record, Google me, and I hope to have your support.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Holtzman. Please, I encourage you all to final rounds of applause for all of our wonderful candidates. We want to thank you all for participating in the civic exercise. We want to thank our candidates for taking the time to join us in this conversation. We know we have a hard stop at 8. Thank you again to all our organizers.